What's up, everybody? This is Easy, bringing you the first video on the new channel. How do you go from ordinary to extraordinary in about 8 minutes? Talking about Ian the artist for the Living Art Gallery, newest project we have going on. There's a list of everything she is: Christian first, mother, creator, inventor, painter. She's really Christian, and she likes to pray while she's painting. And if I was to guess what she try to paint every single day, you're looking at it right there, little angels and butterflies and unicorns. But instead, this is what we've been getting. Little different. I think it's pretty awesome. When I first started working with her, I'm looking at all these paintings and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had to ask her on every painting if she's using a brush, how is she getting this stuff to look like this. But no, she paints it, she pours paint on it, she tilts it around, she blows it with a straw, maybe puts a little torch on it, and then the next day when she comes back, this is what it looks like. So we decided that we didn't know much about anything, so we were going to Google everything and try to figure out what was going on. Because these paintings, I'm telling you, that I took a magnifying glass to 2 paintings and it took me about 12 hours to get through them. I couldn't believe what I saw. The more I looked, the more I saw. And these are really high detailed things under a magnifying glass. So after we studied the artwork for hours on end, we did some research. We found out that there's something called, it's pareidolia, I believe is what it's called. It's when people see faces everywhere. And I've heard of that. I didn't know the name, but I've heard of it. It's when people see faces in the clouds. They see it in the grass. They see it everywhere. So I contemplated that might be what was going on, but I really don't think so. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Then we got lucky. As we're searching the internet, we're learning about our brains. We're learning about all this stuff. We stumbled onto this video. It was on the CIA. It was a classified report back in 1983, and it became unclassified in like 2017. It was a Army commander that was doing a report that he was asked to do on something called the Gateway Process. And he did a lot of interviews from people from the Monroe Institute. What they do is they use a special process called hemisync, and it synchronizes their brain, and it basically gets them in tune with the earth. Some real hippie stuff. But when they did this, the results were incredible. The people that were really well trained were able to actually, their consciousness was able to leave their body, and they did all kinds of tests to prove it. Now I wasn't there, so I'm gonna have to take the CIA's word for it. Not my favorite thing. Anyway, in this report, they talked about how when there's an impact, something that's moving impacts something still, they were able to get the data out of something. I guess they had some water that was hit, and they froze the water, and after the water was frozen, they were able to take a tight beam of light, a laser, I suppose, and they could see what they put into the water clearly as a hologram. Now, this is all over the internet now, called the holographic universe. I'm not really going to get into that because that's not my goal here today. But there's information being stored somehow in the tiniest of places. So we started putting everything together, and you know, I'm almost 50 and I had no idea about half the stuff. I really didn't. And I don't know, I thought I did, but some things you don't think about until they're in front of you. So anyway, there's a repetitive model in the universe. The biggest things, they mimic the smallest things. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but atoms are very similar to stars in a solar system, where the atoms have the electrons that fly around them, the star has the planets that fly around them, and you know, you can see that. But there's a couple other interesting facts. Oh, and if you split an atom, it becomes as hot as the sun. But some other things that I didn't really know was that the electrons that are going around the atom are far away from the nucleus of the atom, statistically. And basically, if you were to shrink down to where the Earth is the size of an electron, and you were going to take a space shuttle type ship and go to the next atom, it would take about 80,000 years, which ironically is exactly how long it would take us to go to Alpha Centauri if we used one of our spaceships that we have now. And even though the atoms are so far away from each other, technically there are so many of them. There's about 100 trillion in a cell. Now, of course, cells are all different sizes, and that's just an estimate. So about 100 trillion in a cell, but then there's about 100 trillion cells in the human body, and that kind of matches up with the stars in the Milky Way, and then how many galaxies there are in our universe. There were some striking similarities that they may not be technically exactly the same. Matter of fact, little disclosure, scientists would argue that we only see a small percentage of the universe, about 5 to 6%. So they say there's about 200 billion galaxies in the universe, but they could be way off by that if things are just different where we can't see it. So but that was my logical deduction. And really what's important about this isn't really the numbers, but the way the numbers match up with each other. I think it's just more for people to realize and to look. It's a look here. There's something going on here. And now I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist. But what are the odds of our bodies having the same amount of atoms in a cell and then the same amount of cells in our body? I don't think any other animal on the planet Earth would be like that because of their size differences. So, and unless you're into quantum theory, which I know a lot of people say they like it, but if you ever try to do the math, you wouldn't really like it. I like it, but I can't do the math. You probably haven't heard of this, but they had a problem with black holes where it was destroying quantum information, they thought. So they sat and worked on it, and they came up with this incredibly difficult theory and this equation called, it's a Jacob-Bekenstein bound. It's an equation. I don't know if that means that they actually found the data or they theoretically found it, but they have data. They claim that there's data on the outsides of the event horizon on black holes, and it's two-dimensional information that's stored. It's three-dimensional information stored on a two-dimensional space, which they have these equations that they can then break it down, and when they break it down, it's absolutely incredible what they come up with. So, but anyway, let's go back to what we were comparing. We were comparing atoms and their relationships to the cell and their relationships to the body, and then we were comparing stars and their relationship with galaxies and their relationship with the universe, because they all kind of match up with each other. And I mean, it could be a coincidence, but I don't think so. And I think really what's going on is that our bodies, we have a way to store information. Now, we don't know this for a fact, but I think we probably know everything that every one of our ancestors know. We just don't know how to access it yet. And we know that the universe was able to use what they call now Hawking's radiation to send that information out of the black hole and store it on the event horizon. So by using quantum mechanics, string theory, and a bunch of complex equations, we found a way that the universe can store this three-dimensional data on a two-dimensional surface, and we can understand it, recreate it, and we can rebuild a three-dimensional construct. And when we do that, we actually have leftover information that ends up making gravity. Don't ask me how that actually works, although there was some irony involved in this, because I had just heard something very similar to that when I was watching that CIA release document, and it was how our brain operates. Our brain actually recreates everything we see, and because our brain can't store everything in our head in a three-dimensional way, it actually breaks it down to like a panoramic picture and then cuts it up into small pieces and then stacks it on top of each other to where it's nice and neat and put away. And that's pretty similar to how they're storing three-dimensional information on a two-dimensional surface. So again, it's played out from the very big to the very small. But why would I go through all this explanation over a painting? And the reason is because from what we've seen, I believe what's happening out there in the galaxy, in the universe, in the cosmos, ended up happening right on our lovely artist canvas. There's things that appear there that she didn't paint, and it's constant. The similar things on all of these paintings. I've flashed a few of the paintings out there so far, but here's one of the bigger ones that she's done. Now we have this. I'm not going to make a 30-minute video, so we'll have part 2 where we'll actually break down this painting. We'll go in as close as I can get it to where it's not blurry. This is a 24 by 72 painting, and I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but the way she does this is she pours the paint, and she doesn't take a brush and fix it all up after. She's not making details in their faces. She's not making these things that appear in it. She's just pouring the paint. And matter of fact, the way she pours it is pretty incredible, because usually she starts off by smearing paint and just mixing it all together to where it's just one color. And then as she maneuvers it and puts the heat on it and all that, all the colors come out. So I know people are going to question whether or not she's actually painting these with a brush or doing something else, but she's not. Now, it's hard for me to honestly. I use Filmora, which is a really good program, but these are so close that it's hard for me to see everything. So we're not going to go into great descriptions, but I've already looked at this with a magnifying glass, and this is an underwater world somewhere else. All the creatures in this painting are all alien. We have a bunch of paintings that have humans in it, and you can tell they're humans. Some of them don't dress like we do now. They dress a little medievalishly or older. So my theory, and also if you want to go to our website, which is the living art gallery .art, A-R-T, there's something called the editor's theory. That's what I am, an editor. And in the theory, it goes over what I think's happening and how I think that this is not just made up. This is possibly something that's gone on either a long time ago, or it's going on somewhere else in the universe, or it's going on in another dimension. I don't know. But I do know this, that there's too much of it going on for me to just dismiss it as we're seeing faces. And I know from some other work we're doing, we're trying to work with some people that have struggled from mental health issues. And what we've been doing is we have these art boxes, and when they get triggered and they're going to have a rough time, if they stop what they're doing and they go and start painting, the creative part of their brain opens up, and it triggers something in their left and right hemispheres of the brain, and it completely changes the way they feel and what they're doing, and they can stop what they're doing and actually get into the painting and really change everything. Well, there's something like that going on, because I believe that during the prayer process, or during she can talk in tongues while she's doing that, some stuff that I've never even tried. Quite possibly there's stuff slipping by. One half of our brain is kind of like it regulates what the other side's allowed to hear or allowed to see or whatever. And I think that during this process, her guard is down, and all this information could be getting passed to her. I don't know by who or what or how, because I'm not a scientist. I'm just a dumb guy that's seen some really incredible things. You can go down to the website. It is the Living Art Gallery, or livingartgallery.art. We have the second half of this video coming up. You want to check it out. I was kind of selfish and it didn't show all the good stuff at first. I want to save the best for last. And I know this is a little far-fetched for a lot of people. I'm a skeptic on everything. For me to say all this stuff was really hard. But it's been an incredible ride so far. So appreciate everyone for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Until next time, it's been easy. Take care, everybody. Up next, my 4th grade report, as promised. Been waiting a long time to tell the story. about 30 years. Just to expose my age a little. I went to school in New England. My teacher, which we won't say her name, was from the South. She was from Savannah, Georgia. So we had a hard time. This is how I remember her. Not the real pictures, though. Couldn't save any Polaroids from back then. She corrected how I talked pretty much daily, along with the rest of the kids. As pretty as she wasn't very happy. I guess she didn't get everything. As the teacher was writing on the board, I was trying to listen to the kids behind me, because in 4th grade I still kind of sucked at reading, and especially cursive, which we were supposed to write and read in cursive back in those days. So I'm listening to what they're saying, and we had to write a report about someone that did something that you know was wrong, but you still thought it was okay to do under the circumstances, and we had to come up with good reasons why. And don't mention anyone's name in class or in the school. So as everyone else was complaining about having to do homework over the weekend and having to do this big report, I wasn't going to screw this up. Started taking notes, and my notes, you can see them on the screen. My notes were: start on Friday, over the weekend do the report, and on Monday get a wicked good grade. That was my plan, because I hadn't been doing so well. They've been asking us to do all kinds of stuff that I didn't like to do, like read. And if it didn't have pictures in it, then I wasn't interested in reading it. And this didn't have pictures, but this was okay. So on Friday, while we're still at school, I wrote down what my report was going to be. And I said, I think that Luke Skywalker should kill his father. And the rest I was going to do over the weekend. Meanwhile, the rest of the class erupts in questions. But not me. I went to deep thought. I'm not sure exactly what, but next thing you know, the bell rings, the bus, on and off the bus, I'm at the house, playing this new thing, it's called video games. So for the first time in my life, I can get through a whole weekend without getting in trouble, which was amazing. But before you know it, back on the bus, back at school, everyone's coming in Monday morning, I start to try to read the board, and I had forgot to do my project over the weekend. Which was unusual. Usually I remember around 9 o'clock Sunday night when I have something big to do. So I shuffle through all of my stuff, and I find my project, and I'm looking around, and I said to myself or someone that I don't see the teacher, so I'm going to try to do it right now real quick, and get ready to go do my project, my report. And next thing you know, I see the teacher coming, but I'm going to do as much as I can. Maybe she won't see me. And no, she came right up to me. She took my report out of my hand. So I told her, hey, I wasn't done. Someone asked, where'd she go? She went into the office. Then next thing you know, she's laughing. She dismisses the whole class. She never told me what I got on my report. But the last few weeks of school, it kind of sucked for me. It seemed like every time I'd see her, she was laughing. Just start laughing as soon as she saw me. Which for a kid, 4th grade, it kind of hurts. I ran into her again, I believe I was about 15 years old. Saw her at the beach. As soon as I saw her and she saw me, she waved me over. I walked over and sat down next to her. She looked a lot different at the beach. Hey, so you remember me? So tell me, you still mad at me?
Mad at you?
Yeah, for my bad report.
Is that what you think?
She reached into her purse, and there it was, my 4th grade report in her purse. I thought the gun was coming out next for sure. I reached out and grabbed my report. Finally, I could see what my grade was, but she needed to tell me something.
The day I took your report while you were still writing on it happened to be on a day that was at the end of many, many bad days for me. I tried so hard each and every day at the school with the kids and at home. I thought things should have been better, easier. But no matter how hard I tried, nothing could make me happy. Then I read your report and read it and read it. Each time I could hear your little voice saying what you wrote. And you wrote it like you spoke it. All wrong. But it was perfect, it was beautiful. I laughed so hard. It was the first time in months that I let myself laugh. And I'm still laughing. My life changed on that day. And I just wanted to say, thank you.
I glanced at the top of the report and thought, she gave me an A+. And there it is, my report, full. As tears were running down my face, I sat there and read what she wrote to me. Which, by the way, my report said, I think Luke Skywalker should kill his father, because his father's Darth Vader. I had more than that to go with it, but she took my paper. So, it said, for the first time in my career, I've got to grade the perfect report. It's only a 6-word response and half the words were misspelled, which without a question makes it the overall quality of the report even better. Every time I read it, I get joy out of it. Thank you. So I asked her to keep it because I'd lose it. She reached out without saying a word, started tucking it back in her purse. I looked right into her eyes with my teary-eyed little 15-year-old self and walked backwards away from her, thinking I actually helped somebody. And I'd never seen her again. So there you have it, Easy's 4th grade report. Not quite as detailed as the CIA's detailed report on the gateway process, but you'll have to go watch that to see for yourself. The link's in the description. Next video was part 2. We'll show you what's going on in this painting. It's pretty awesome. I think everyone will enjoy it. Appreciate everyone for watching. If you're still watching, I'm amazed. You just handled a 20-minute video, first ever on YouTube to ever do it. Appreciate everyone for watching. Take care.